All right, so I have my assets files minimized here, but I have my groupings all kind of placed. I have this nice little composition. And I have these beautiful individual photos that I like a lot, but that doesn't mean I need just all of them in this composition. So if I take this photo and then I do command right bracket to bring it up kind of near the top and bring it in. The only thing you want to be careful of when bringing in individual photos is that you are rotating them a little bit so that they look hand done with Command T instead of always perfectly horizontal and vertical, because that's kind of a dead giveaway of digital processing. Okay, so I've done it like that, and now maybe I sync it through. Kind of decide, okay, how much do I want to show? That's kind of nice. So just kind of pick your individual favorites where you think they're really helpful. I mean, this is a nice shot, but I think all of that's served pretty well already. This is kind of fun. Yeah, maybe I'll bring these over. Give me a little depth and darkness here. And then sync them with Command left bracket. But it always becomes a balance of, what's in front of what, and kind of working with that. And sometimes the best option is just to kind of shrink some things to let others work, like maybe connecting that trunk there. Okay. Maybe I'll just bring in one more because I don't like just that white stripe through the middle there. And you can even bring in ones that you've already used before. There's nothing wrong with that. You can just show them in different ways. But as you bring them on, try to not have any that are horizontal or vertical, so they all look kind of intentionally placed.
If they're towards the top,
Uh-huh.
they're going to be up front, right?
Yeah, think of it as just all piling on top, like you're gluing them down. So the layers that are near the top, those are going to be the ones, like this is very near the top. If I do Command right bracket, bring it up to the very top, there is no other layer underneath that. And then as I start sinking it down, I can kind of see the different impressions it can make. Sometimes I'll even duplicate a layer. So, like I turn this one off and I like this layer. I'll make a duplicate of it, turn this layer back on, move that duplicate up above it so I can do something else with it, like shrink it and use it in a different way. Maybe at a really off angle over here. And then sunken down. I like that big red flower though. There we go. Yeah, I want to kind of mix up those grays a little. Now, the key is never to cut your photos. Not to crop them or cut them out. You're using your full exposures. You're just being very selective about what edges are showing. So all of these should look like believable exposure shapes. Look, I've got a little corner of a mouth there from a painting. Creepy. Subversive stuff here. Right, and this to me, like the windows kind of look like water. Got fake flowers, lots of life, wood, floor, kind of a big bouquet. Maybe there's one other asset I want to put in here. But this is all just playing around. Let's see. And now we're going to get to saving the next step. Did I close my assets? If you close something that you recently had open in Photoshop, you can go to File, Open, Reset, and find it there. No, I just had it minimized. Good. I'm just looking for something to kind of break up this space. Hey, this one could work. Bring that over. So remember, we shot not knowing exactly what we would get. I'm going to bring this exposure up to the top. Then play with rotating it. It's kind of the top of that pot. And holding down Shift and scaling it. And yeah, I want to break up this edge a little bit. Nice. Kind of shows the front of the pot, the top of the pot from a distance, you know, the other side. And then I can sink it back in and see where I want that to work. Yeah, I like it right there. Beautiful. Okay, so let's say that this, I think, is great. Now, does it match my sketch? It matches the spirit of my sketch, right? Because how could it match my sketch? I sketched before I took a single exposure. And that's what makes this so creative, is we had an idea, a vision that we were trying to execute. And we actually can make it work pretty well with the idea of eye movement and what goes where and size, because we have complete control of how we place each exposure. Just waiting for these to close and save. Okay, now, this file, because it's got all this extra space, come on, is almost 1 gigabyte large, which is hard on Photoshop, hard on all of us. So now what I do is I'm going to turn on my sketch behind it, but I'm going to use that sketch layer, which is its own layer, and I'm going to move it, and I'm going to kind of recompose around it, like so. And maybe you even want to transform your sketch and give yourself a little bit more room if your exposure's got a little bit bigger than you wanted, or a little bit less room if you want to close in a little bit tighter. And that's okay. As long as it's around 11 by 14 by 350 pixels per inch. Now I want you to take your guides, using your move tool, being on your sketch layer, and I want you to map your guides to the sides of your sketch. And even if I had assets still out here that I hadn't used, at this point I've decided what I'm going to use, and I've used it. And I can always go back to my assets file and bring more in if I decide to later. So now I'm going to crop, aligning it with my sketch again and with those guidelines. And that will save me a lot of memory space. Okay? So it doesn't look very different, except now all that gray is gone. I can turn off my guides. I'm going to go to my image size and make sure it's around 11 by 14 by 350. Yes. It's a little short, but that's okay, because my height's more than it needs to be. Okay, now, this is the next thing I save. So the first thing I saved to upload was my sketch. So I have my sketch JPEG here. So let me mark that as orange. That's the first thing I upload to PhotoBucket for this assignment. My computer's still trying to catch up with all that cropping. So let me save that to the desktop. Come on. We're making Photoshop work so hard. Hold down Option, I can copy it onto the desktop. All right, the next thing we want to save to the desktop is a JPEG version of this. So first, I save it. It's still got all of its individual layers. Not quite 105 layers. I didn't use every exposure I took, but a lot of layers. And it's got my sketch and it's got a background. So once it's saved as a PSD, Carl Fry Assignment 6, now I save that as a JPEG, and I call it Carl Fry Assignment 6 Unprocessed. And I want to see your sketch behind it, and I save that as a JPEG to the desktop. And I'm going to take its quality down so it's less than 5 megabytes, just because it's going on to PhotoBucket. All right, now it's still a PSD though. It's still completely individual. So let me make sure I have that saved. So these are the first 2 things I upload out of 3 things for today's critique. Okay. And now I'm going to rush through it. But now, individually, we're going to go to certain layers, just click on them, and play with their processing. We can also decide if we just want them to be edited out. So if I take this layer and say, well, maybe it looks better without it. So I'm going to turn off my sketch so I can see the edges. And instead of a gray background, I'm going to say edit on the background layer, edit fill. And we're going to fill it with white, the white of the paper that we will print. And now when I fill it with white, everything looks kind of dingy, right? At least in my exposures, because none of them have been processed. So now I can go through and I can decide, oh, would it be better without this one? Is that more interesting? I kind of like that fake edge that window gives. And you kind of prune it. So if you think of this as a bouquet, now I'm pruning it, making it what I want. You can have little holes in it. Do I really need that, or does it kind of wrap around better without that shadow? What do you guys think? It's like a little kickstand. And I kind of like how this swings the eye around. It has a lot more edges without it. So let me take that one out. Now the other thing I like to do here is I can take any one layer. So let's say this layer right here. And I can play with its adjustments. And my favorite thing to do is just do a quick auto tone adjustment. See, that will really kind of bring it out. Or an auto color adjustment. Not to all of them, but to kind of give some variety. I really want these flowers to pop. And of course, if these auto settings aren't doing what you want, auto contrast. Auto tone. If they're not doing what you want them to do, then simply going in and doing standard levels and color balance adjustments as needed. But that's quite a bit to do for so many photos. So you just do it kind of selectively where you think there needs to be a little bit of variety. Ooh, I like what it did there to the wall. Especially if you shot like I did in like not the best light conditions. This will really kind of make them a little snazzier. These auto settings, which we haven't used yet. We've always